Hi guys and welcome back to my channel Bookish Drama. My name is Ethan and today I am bringing you my January wrap-up and my favorite TBR. So without further ado, let's go straight to the books. First of all, let me tell you that during the month of January, I had my college finals. Here we do our finals on January and at the end of May for the second semester. So yeah, I read very little, but you know, I still managed to squeeze in some books. Mainly during this past week, which I had free after my finals. So yeah, and a lot of the things I read were from this book, Arcanum Bounded by Brandon Sanderson. This is a short story collection. All of the novellas in this book are set in the Cosmere, which is the universe he sets all of his adult fantasy in, or most of his work. And yeah, so when you see me holding this book, I will be talking about 3 different novellas that I read here. The first one was The 11th Metal, which is a novella set on Scadrial, which is the planet where Mistborn takes place, and this novella is a prequel to the first Mistborn trilogy. In The 11th Metal, we follow Kelsier. It is a story about his past. Kelsier is one of the main characters in the Mistborn trilogy, and here we can see how he is in search of the 11th metal, which is something we see then in the trilogy. I'm not going to go into spoilers there. It is not a very important novella to read, but it is quite enjoyable. I gave it 3 stars. It was nice, but not that much. If you are going to read it, make sure you do after reading the whole Mistborn trilogy, because I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but this was a reread for me. The first time I read it just after I finished the first Mistborn book, and there are no spoilers in the novella, but you understand some of the things better if you have read the entire series. So yeah, that is my recommendation, and yeah. Then I finally finished, after months of reading this book, Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson as well. This is the second novel in the Stormlight Archives series. This was going to be the first book I finished this year, but I decided to read the other novella first. But this is one of the first reads, and it is going to be my top 1 book of the year. You have no idea how good this book was. Like, no idea. The premise for this series is that we follow mainly 3 characters, who are Dalinar, who is a war prince, let's say. We also follow Kaladin, who is a slave, but he was previously a soldier and previously a surgeon, and you want to know why he has gone the path he's gone, basically. And then we also follow Shallan, and she is a scholar, and all of these characters are interconnected some way. In this book, we finally see all of them together, and it was very nice, obviously. This book broke my heart. It is thick, and I enjoyed every single page of it, like, wonderful. And that epilogue, I also want to add here that I was spoiled for 3 of the major plot twists. Well, I spoiled some of them myself because I wanted to know what happened right away, but yeah, I was spoiled for 2 other things, which are, you know, not major. I still enjoyed it a lot, but my enjoyment was a little diminished by it, but you know, it is still perfect. It is still going to be my top 1 book of the year. If Oathbringer, the 3rd book in the series, is a little bit worse, if it is better, that will be my top 1, but if not, this is going to be the one. Spoiler alert, not sorry, top 1 book of the year. Please read this series, but don't start with this if you are new to Brandon Sanderson. Please go read Elantris instead if you want to get started with his books. A video about a reading order for Brandon Sanderson is in the works and will be up fairly soon. The next novella I read in Arcanum Bounded was Allomancer Jack and the Pits of Eltania. This is also a novella set on Scadrial, the Mistborn book, and in this case it is a novella set during the events that take place in the second Mistborn trilogy. If you don't know, during the books in the second era of Mistborn, you have some newspaper pages throughout the book. Let me show you. Here you can see how they look, and in some of them you can see a story about Allomancer Jack. So this novella is actually that story, and yeah, it is not key. You don't have to read this story at all to understand other things, but you get a little bit of insight into the Colossus, which are a type of creature that are very important in the first era and maybe in the second era, I don't know yet. But yeah, you get a little bit of insight of how they are created and how they have children and all of that. So, you know, it is quite interesting, not essential. I quite enjoyed it. I think I gave it, I don't know, 3 stars or 4 stars, let's say 3.5. It was very enjoyable. I didn't think I was going to enjoy that at the beginning, but then I did. These 2 stories that I read that are set on schedule are only like 25 pages, so they are very, very short. And you know, you fly through them, so I would recommend reading them, although it is not essential. Then I finished Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shannon McGuire, the 3rd book in the Wayward Children series. I have here all 3 of them in hardcover. I recently bought them and I think they're beautiful. I still need to get In an Absent Dream, which is the 4th one that just came out this month. What I wanted to say is that Beneath the Sugar Sky is a direct sequel to Every Heart a Doorway, which is the 1st novel, and Down Among Sticks and Bones is kind of a prequel. So once I reread them, I think I'm going to do it in chronological order within this world. So I'm going to be rereading them. First, Down Among Sticks and Bones, then Every Heart a Doorway, and finally Beneath the Sugar Sky, because, you know, there were some things that I forgot about the first novel that are relevant in these, so I think that will be my preferred order once I decide to reread them. In this novel, we follow mainly a new character named Cora, and she's new to the school, and she has to go on an adventure with some of the characters we meet in the first novel to save a world. In this case, the world is Confection. I'm not going to go into who is from that world or anything like that because that might be a spoiler. So yeah, they're trying to save this world that they have never been to, and it is very different from their own home worlds. So they feel like they don't fit in there, and it is quite difficult for them to go on this adventure. I quite enjoyed this one, but still not as much as the first one. I enjoyed it more or less like I did the second novel. I gave it 4 stars. It is still amazing, really great quotes, but I think this is maybe the weakest of them all. I am not really sure. I'm not enjoying the whole series as much as I was expecting after reading the first one, but they're still amazing and wonderful, but not perfect. Like, there's something missing for me here. And finally, the last novella I read this month was 6 of the Dusk by Brandon Sanderson again. This novella is set on the Drominad system. Here you can see a picture of the system, and the planet is First of the Sun, which is the first one from the sun. First of the Sun. What is particular about this world is that this world doesn't have a shard. If you are into Brandon Sanderson books, you know what that means. If you don't know what that is, I'm sorry, I'm not going to explain it because that might be considered a spoiler. This novella was very interesting. At the beginning, I thought I was going to hate it, but then I loved it, and oh my gosh. If you don't know, most of his stories are set in the Cosmere, but they follow a timeline, and this story is the last one in the timeline so far. In this world, there are some birds called aviars, and they have magical abilities that they give to humans, and there are some creatures called the Ones Above, and they come from another planet using spaceships, and this world is not so advanced, so they're trying to build a connection between the above ones and the people from this world, and it is very interesting how everything comes into place. The story is set on an island, and this island tries to kill everyone that steps foot on it. And most of the birds that have this magical ability are on this island, and you want to discover how everything comes into place. I don't know how to fully explain it. It is a very weird concept, but yeah, I think it is going to be quite relevant to the Cosmere as a whole, because I don't know how to explain it, like, I don't know, you have to read it. It is very short, it is like 60 pages long, and wonderful. Like, I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. And yeah, that was the last thing I read during this month. Now we're going to jump into my favorite TBR. I want to read 4 or 5 novels that I'm going to show you right now, so let's go. Yesterday I started 2 novels. The first one is Shadows of Saul by Brandon Sanderson. As I am quite on a reading slump right now, and reading the prologue of this has made me want to read the whole thing right now. So that's what I'm going to be doing once I finish filming this video, because I don't know what it was, but it got me into reading, so I'm going to keep reading. And I also want to read this month The Bands of Mourning, which is the 3rd book in this Mistborn Era 2. Everyone says that this book is a game changer for Mistborn and for the Cosmere, so I cannot wait to read this, as well as Secret History, which is another short story here on Arcanum Bounded, which is a short story about the first Mistborn trilogy, but that is going to affect the Cosmere as a whole. I already got a little bit spoiled on what happens, and I'm so excited to get to it because, oh my gosh, I want to know how that happens and what consequences it might have. So I don't know, it is very intense. Like, I need to get to it right now. The other book I started is this one, City of Heavenly Fire. I think I have the Dusk jacket right here. The last book in the Mortal Instruments. I reread the whole series last year to get to this book because I have never read this, and I stopped reading them for a couple of months, but I have to finish it because I reread all the other books just to get to it, and I am going to finally do it. I just read the prologue, which is set in Los Angeles. I want to get to know these new characters that are the main protagonists in The Dark Artifices, so yeah, very excited for this read. The other book I have to get to is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I reread in September the first novel in order to continue the series, and I didn't, so it is finally time for me to read this book. I'm quite excited. This is a very short book, and I'm sure I'm going to fly through it. It is only 400 pages, and I want to know what Selena goes through after what happened in the first novel, so very excited for this. And then the last book that I want to read if I have the time is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is, I think, the only books I have left to read by him, and as the movie is coming out on March, I want to read the whole series. I wanted to read the whole series before, but I'm not going to have time to, so at least I want to read this first novel before the movie comes out. And yeah, very excited. This is about a world where people can read everybody's minds, and where only boys are, I think. There are only men in this world. So here you have, for example, what your mind would be like. You hear everyone's thoughts in your own mind, so you kind of have here a representation of what it looks graphically. That was all for today's video, guys. If you liked it, give it a huge thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next video. Goodbye!